St. Ambrose Apricot Wheat Ale. Unfortunately, it only comes in tall cans now. I used to enjoy drinking it out of a bottle, but these tall cans are okay. So, you know, it's really the beer that counts, right? Anyways, let me put that down. Today, very special day in the workshop. I have this package from Weta Workshop. Now, don't get too excited. Weta did not send this to me because I'm an amazing YouTuber, although I would have loved that. That would have been great. They did send it to me because I purchased something from them. So now, a lot of you may or may not know that I was the Armor Supervisor on Warcraft. Whoa! How cool was that? Now you're probably wondering what an Armor Supervisor does. Well, I can tell you it's a multifaceted position, but basically I was a liaison. I had a workshop in Vancouver and I basically oversaw everything from pre-production, working with the illustrators, making sure that we were designing functional armor, with builders in the shop that were actually building prototypes. I was testing prototypes, trying them on people, dealing with Weta Workshop on a daily basis to make sure that they could actually get the timeline of making the armor and creating it in our ridiculous schedule, doing fittings with actors, and creating some of the cool stuff that we made by hand myself. And at the same time, we were dealing with a chain manufacturer who was in Saskatchewan in Canada, and we had these like very unique profiled rings that we had created, and we were mass producing all of the chain so that we could get it sewn down to all the garments and like all the liners put on. It was all very, very specific, and we were trying to design them in different sizes, so we had a little bit of scalability with the armor. But today, when I unbox this, I'm gonna show you guys some of the details that I love about the armor, because this was one of my favorite armors in Warcraft. And that's what I've ordered from Weta for my birthday. So this one is very, very special. It's the Warcraft Alliance Foot Soldier Armor. It is number 502 of 1,000. And of all the armor that I got to oversee, it was the one that we had the most of. We had stunt people and we had actors, and it was clean, it was dirty, it was you know, flying through the air, getting shot at. They were riding horses, they were running. You know, we were just like churning through. And it was a pretty exciting time. We had a huge crew, and I like have to say thank you for all of the crew that may be watching this video now, all these years later. I mean, I could not have done the job without you. All those early mornings, all those super late nights, and putting up with me being like an absolute stickler for making sure that we had absolutely everything perfect, because that's kind of one of the things that I demand is perfection, and everybody knows that about me. So without further ado, let me get into this box and see what's inside, because I think that Weta, who they do amazing work, I think they are probably the type of people that made every detail exactly right on this little model. All right, so we got some packaging. We'll get rid of that. We're into the box now. Woo! Here it is, Weta Workshop Alliance Foot Soldier Armor, and that is pretty much what it looked like. I don't know what kind of pictures I'm going to be showing, but I'm going to show you guys some behind the scenes pictures of me doing the very first fitting, the very, very first time that we're going to see the entire costume together in one place. All the fabric components, the chain components, and the rigid plastic components from Weta. And you can see the height difference, because these armors were designed for somebody that's only 5'10", and I'm 6'4". It's also why Adam Savage's armor looks so ridiculous on him when he wears it, because like that gap is massive. Adam's a tall guy, and he just doesn't fit it very well, because that's one of the real armors from our show. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but it's pretty cool that Adam got one of those. All right, well, here it is. It's got a little base. I'll try not to be too crinkly. So we've got a little Warcraft Alliance Foot Soldier Armor, edition number 502, so it's numbered right on there. I should have gotten Richard Taylor to sign this. I was not thinking. That would have been great. I could have just emailed him and, oh yeah. Well, that is stunningly beautiful. Okay, this baggie is so funny, because this was something that we did to the armors. We would bag the hair, we would comb it out and then bag it. And I can see that this is actually missing a component. There's a little blue leather tie that was on this that was just above where it came out of the helmet. And that just kind of tied it in place and helped it so it didn't splay out quite so much. I might have to add that to mine. Wow, the detail is pretty amazing. I'm especially interested in the buckles. I wanted to see, oh yeah, they didn't do the buckles. Now, I'll show you guys a picture of the custom buckles because we had these buckles manufactured in China, and it was quite interesting because the buckles didn't actually have a tongue on them. They had a stud, and it was something that Mayas was like very, very particular about. She wanted to do this buckle that had like basically a button in the middle of it and didn't have a traditional tongue. And everybody was quite adverse to doing it, but we figured out a system that worked quite well where the leather strap kind of came out of the armor, went through the buckle, and then dove down inside. So you never had any flaps like kicking about that we had to tape down or anything. It was very, very streamlined, but there was custom buckles in multiple places on this armor that were made in China in 2 different colors, and they missed that detail, which is a bit unfortunate because we had a 3D file of it and everything. But yeah, all of the buckles on this would have been that. And the gauntlets, now these gauntlets were a huge pain. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever had, one size fits all gauntlets, and no fault of Weta's at all. They did an amazing job trying to build a gauntlet that was cost effective for us, that fit the look that Mayas wanted, and was able to articulate in the way that we would need for film. And unfortunately, they were problematic. We constantly were upkeeping them throughout the entire production. It's got some good weight to it. The other thing that's missing is underneath the chain, there was actually a fabric panel that went on. Well, that is pretty cool. I want to measure him. Now, I'm interested to measure him because they were designed for actors that were 5'10", so the armor should, in theory, measure exactly 1 foot up to the top, because that would have been 6 feet, and if this is a 1:6 scale model, it should be 1 foot. And yeah, like they nailed it. This is like right at the top of the rigid piece is exactly 12 inches. So this model, in my opinion, with that one measurement, is a true 1:6 scale model. If you have one of these at home and you're thinking you want to replicate one of these yourself and maybe for cosplay or something, the proportion of it, because these were digitally printed, and I'm sure that this model is off that digital print, the rigid component should be exact. Just the nuances of the chain and the buckles. And I'll also show you the detail of how we did this leather belt, because it was pretty interesting. We basically needed to have waist adjustment, especially for the stunt performers, because they would put on their pads depending on their stunt. So they would change. If they were wearing a spine board, they would obviously need a little bit more room. So we had a very elaborate kind of extension system in here. And this panel basically was just a flap of Velcro that would Velcro down over top. So it's meant to look like it's all fancy and buckled up. But in reality, it was just a Velcro flap, and then underneath were the actual real buckles that held it all together. It was much faster to get in and out of than to do up all 4 of these buckles that was kind of the look of the armor. And the boots, the thing we did with those, it was quite a challenge to get it to work, but again, Weta did an awesome job making sure that there was just enough room that we could actually just slide our feet in and out of those boots. So everybody was sized to their boot, and we would just line them up, put their names on them, and people would come in the morning, jump into their boots, and head to set. And the knees were connected to the greave, so they just stood up by themselves. So when we look at the components, kind of how they were put on, there was a blue top underneath that was a full waist and full sleeve garment. Then the pants were kind of like a blue jogging pant. And then over top of that went the chain component, and it had a really unique zipper system in the back so that we could zip it up on an angle so we could see the chain here in the back, and we could see the chain all the way around the neck. So that worked quite well. Then they would put on the belt and the tassets, which were one unit, and they just buckled up in the back, and then they would slip into their breastplate with the shoulders attached. So that was pretty simple, just 2 buckles on one side and then a buckle each on the bicep. And then you were mostly armored at that point. And then the vambraces and gauntlets were put on usually just before the guys went to set, guys and girls. There was females and male soldiers, foot soldiers in Warcraft, which was great. I loved that about the show. Let me know if you want to see more of these. Should I be buying other props that I've built over the years, the replicas of them? Because there's a whole bunch of cool props that I've built, and maybe it would be fun to start a collection of the replicas of the props that I built for real. That could be fun. Let me know in the description below if you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at Warcraft Alliance Foot Soldier Armor Replica from Weta Workshop. Not sponsored, by the way. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you very soon.